In the frigid waters off the coast of Nova Scotia, 300 miles from the nearest shipping lane, commercial fisherman Danny McLeod hauled in his nets on a gray October morning in 1987. What emerged from the depths would challenge everything historians thought they knew about World War II naval warfare. Tangled in the heavy rope was a piece of twisted metal, bearing the unmistakable eagle and swastika of Nazi Germany. But this was no ordinary debris. The metal showed signs of advanced metallurgy that wouldn't be developed for another decade after the war's end. McLeod's discovery triggered the most extensive underwater search operation in Canadian maritime history. What divers found on the ocean floor defied explanation. Resting in nearly perfect condition at a depth of 800 feet lay the remnants of U-977, a German submarine that official records claimed had surrendered in Argentina in August 1945. Yet here it was, thousands of miles from where it should have been, filled with equipment that bore no resemblance to standard Nazi submarine technology. The submarine's hull displayed modifications that naval engineers couldn't explain. Strange cylindrical chambers lined the interior, connected by a network of cables made from an unknown alloy. Most disturbing of all, the submarine's logbook, preserved in a waterproof container, contained entries dated 3 months after Germany's official surrender. The final entry, written in perfect German, simply read, "The journey to the New World begins today. The Führer's vision will survive in the eternal ice." Captain Heinrich Schäfer, U-977's commander, had become something of a legend in post-war naval circles. Unlike other U-boat captains who surrendered immediately after Hitler's death, Schäfer had seemingly vanished into the South Atlantic, surfacing months later in Argentina with a story that never quite added up. He claimed to have spent the missing months hiding on the ocean floor, waiting for safe passage. But fuel calculations made this impossible. A submarine of U-977's class couldn't remain submerged for more than a few weeks without surfacing for air and battery recharging. The discovery off Nova Scotia suggested a far more complex truth. Analysis of the submarine's modified engines revealed traces of fuel additives that wouldn't be invented until the 1950s. The fuel itself contained isotopic signatures that didn't match any known German refinery operations during the war. Even more puzzling, the submarine's compass pointed not to magnetic north, but to a location deep in the Canadian Arctic where no known magnetic anomaly existed. It was as if the vessel had been following an entirely different set of navigational principles, guided by forces that conventional science couldn't explain. Word of the discovery reached Dr. Sarah Chen, a marine archaeologist at MIT who had spent years studying Nazi Germany's secret weapons programs. Chen had always been fascinated by Operation High Jump, Admiral Richard Byrd's mysterious 1946 expedition to Antarctica. Officially, High Jump was a scientific mission to establish American presence on the frozen continent. Unofficially, many believed Byrd was hunting for something the Nazis had left behind. Byrd's expedition had departed with great fanfare, boasting the largest fleet ever assembled for Antarctic exploration: 13 ships, 4,000 men, and enough supplies for an 8-month mission. The fleet included the aircraft carrier Philippine Sea, the cruiser Mount Olympus, and a squadron of the most advanced aircraft in the American arsenal. Yet after just 2 months, Byrd abruptly terminated the operation and returned to the United States. His official reports spoke of successful mapping and scientific research, but Byrd himself would later make cryptic statements about encountering aircraft that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Chen's investigation into U-977 led her to classified documents that had been recently declassified under the Freedom of Information Act. Among them was a communication intercept from February 1947, just weeks after Operation High Jump's sudden conclusion. The message, transmitted on a frequency known to be used by German submarines, contained coordinates that matched exactly with U-977's final position off Nova Scotia. The transmission lasted only 47 seconds, but it was enough to suggest that someone, somewhere, was still coordinating submarine movements 2 years after the war's end. The deeper Chen dug, the more questions emerged. U-977 wasn't the only submarine with an impossible story. U-530, another German submarine that surrendered in Argentina, had also claimed to spend months hiding underwater. Like Schäfer, its captain offered explanations that didn't match the known capabilities of German submarine technology. Most intriguingly, both submarines had been modified with the same mysterious cylindrical chambers found in the wreckage off Nova Scotia. These modifications pointed to a secret Nazi program that had never been fully documented. In the final months of the war, as Allied forces closed in on Germany, the Nazi regime had accelerated development of what they called Wunderwaffen, or miracle weapons. Some of these projects, like the V-2 rocket and the jet-powered Messerschmitt Me 262, were well known. Others remained shrouded in mystery. Documents recovered from the wreckage of U-977 reference something called Project Antarctis, a program that seemed to involve the establishment of a secret base on the frozen continent. The connection to Antarctica wasn't merely speculative. In 1938, Nazi Germany had conducted its own expedition to the frozen continent, claiming a vast territory they named Neuschwabenland, or New Swabia. Official accounts described this as a routine territorial claim, but evidence suggested something far more significant. The expedition had brought sophisticated drilling equipment, heavy machinery, and enough supplies to establish a permanent presence. More troubling still, they had mapped vast cave systems beneath the ice, areas that would be perfect for concealing a military installation. Chen's research revealed that the Nazi Antarctic expedition had discovered something unexpected beneath the ice. Geological surveys from the 1938 mission, buried in German archives for decades, showed evidence of geothermal activity that could support human habitation even in Antarctica's harsh environment. The caves they mapped extended for miles underground, forming a natural fortress that would be virtually impossible to detect from the surface. Temperature readings indicated that some of these caverns maintained above freezing temperatures year-round, heated by underground thermal vents. The possibility that Nazi Germany had established a secret Antarctic base gained credibility when Chen examined the cargo manifests of submarines that had departed Germany in the war's final months. Rather than carrying weapons or military supplies, many of these vessels had been loaded with scientific equipment, construction materials, and enough provisions to sustain a large population for years. Most significantly, several submarines had carried components for advanced aircraft, designs that bore no resemblance to conventional German aviation technology. This aircraft technology might explain the mysterious encounters reported by Admiral Byrd's expedition. During Operation High Jump, several American pilots reported sightings of disc-shaped aircraft that demonstrated flight capabilities far beyond anything in the Allied arsenal. These craft could accelerate instantly, make impossible turns, and disappear at speeds that defied contemporary understanding of aerodynamics. Lieutenant Commander David Bunger, piloting a seaplane over the Antarctic coast, reported being pursued by objects that emerged from beneath the ice itself, moving faster than any known aircraft. The official silence surrounding these encounters only deepened the mystery. Pilots who reported the unusual aircraft were quickly transferred to different assignments, and their reports were classified at the highest levels. Even decades later, when most World War II documents had been declassified, Operation High Jump's detailed mission reports remained sealed. The few documents that had been released were heavily redacted, with entire pages blacked out. Chen's investigation took an unexpected turn when she discovered that the metallurgy found in U-977's modifications wasn't just advanced for 1945. It incorporated techniques that mainstream science wouldn't develop until the 1960s. The submarine's hull showed evidence of welding methods that required temperatures far beyond what German industry could achieve during the war. Even more puzzling, spectroscopic analysis revealed trace elements in the metal that didn't match any known German mining operations. The alloys contained rare earth elements that wouldn't be commercially available until decades after the war. These anomalies suggested that Nazi Germany's secret weapons programs had made breakthroughs that history had forgotten or deliberately obscured. In the chaos of the war's end, with German scientists scattered to the winds and archives destroyed, Entire research programs had vanished without a trace. What emerged from U-977's wreckage suggested that some of these programs had achieved far more than anyone imagined. The submarine's modified engines presented another puzzle. While conventional diesel engines powered most German submarines, U-977's propulsion system incorporated design elements that wouldn't appear in mainstream technology for another 20 years. The fuel injection system used principles that anticipated modern computer-controlled engines, while the exhaust system included filtration methods that seemed designed to eliminate all traces of the submarine's passage through the water. Most remarkably, the engine showed signs of having been designed to operate on alternative fuel sources, including what appeared to be hydrogen-based compounds. Perhaps most intriguingly, U-977's navigation equipment included instruments that appeared designed for extended underwater operation in polar regions. The submarine carried ice-cutting tools, specialized ballast systems for operating beneath ice sheets, and communication equipment designed to penetrate the electromagnetic interference common in polar regions. This wasn't equipment for hiding in the South Atlantic. It was technology designed for operations in the Arctic or Antarctic. The implications were staggering. If Nazi Germany had indeed established a secret base in Antarctica, staffed by their most advanced scientists and equipped with technology years ahead of its time, then the post-war world had been built on incomplete information. The submarine discoveries off Nova Scotia suggested that this base hadn't simply been abandoned when Germany surrendered. It had continued operating, potentially for years after the war's official end. Chen's research culminated in a startling discovery. Deep in Soviet archives, recently open to researchers, she found references to a 1958 nuclear test in the Antarctic that had never been publicly acknowledged. The test, codenamed Operation Argus, was officially described as a scientific experiment to study the effects of nuclear explosions in space. But the timing and location suggested something far more targeted. The detonation had occurred directly above the region where Nazi Germany had claimed territory 20 years earlier. The nuclear test's aftermath had been classified at the highest levels of both American and Soviet intelligence. Satellite imagery from the period showed massive changes to the Antarctic ice sheet in the target area, with entire sections of ice shelf collapsing into the ocean. Seismic readings from the explosion were far more intense than expected for a test of its supposed size, suggesting that the nuclear device had detonated something much larger beneath the ice. Whatever had been hidden beneath the ice, the nuclear explosion had effectively destroyed it. Yet even this dramatic action raised more questions than it answered. Why had both superpowers, bitter enemies in the Cold War, cooperated to destroy something in Antarctica? What had they been so desperate to eliminate? The trail of evidence stretching from U-977's wreckage to the classified Antarctic operation painted a picture of a secret that had shaped the post-war world in ways never publicly acknowledged. The advanced technology found in the submarine suggested that Nazi Germany's secret weapons programs had achieved breakthroughs that were carefully hidden from history. The mysterious Antarctic base, if it had existed, represented a continuation of Nazi research that had somehow survived the war's end. In the end, the discovery of U-977 off Nova Scotia opened a window into a hidden chapter of history that powerful forces had worked to keep secret. The submarine's impossible location, advanced technology, and connection to Antarctica suggested that the Second World War's conclusion had been far more complex than official records indicated. Somewhere in the frozen wastes of Antarctica, beneath tons of ice and the debris of a nuclear explosion, lay the answers to questions that history had never been allowed to ask. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but occasionally, those secrets surface in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew. U-977's wreckage stands as a testament to the possibility that history, as we understand it, may be incomplete. In the depths of the ocean and the frozen heart of Antarctica, the truth waits to be discovered by those brave enough to seek it out.